Hi, I'm Lucas Mack. I'm a former TV reporter, a published author, TEDx speaker, musician, advertising agency owner, and management consultant. I'm also a former Christian preacher who dedicated 15 years of my life searching for truth and love. I've done a lot of work to heal, and I'm on a mission to see the hurting get healed and the healed go out and heal others, in order for all of us to experience the true love and light we desire. This podcast is me sharing my journey with you, so you don't feel alone in your journey. Welcome to the Golden Rule Revolution. Hello, brothers and sisters, and welcome back to another episode of the Golden Rule Revolution. I am Lucas Mack, and it is such a pleasure having you back on this podcast. A lot is going on, and I know while you're on your journey of healing and becoming more sovereign, the situation around the world, situation in politics in the United States is definitely bringing up a lot of fear, worry, anxiety, stress, maybe smugness, maybe overconfidence, maybe overcompensation, whatever it is. All these things, let them come up, look at them and say, and ask yourself, are these for my highest good? And if they are based in fear or control or anxiety or hate or anything that is of low vibration that does not belong in love and light, you get to let that go. Release it. Say, I release whatever it is. I release fear. I receive love. I release fear. I receive love. This is the natural order of nature. The trees release their leaves, they stand, and then they receive the new light of spring and they replenish. And it is a cycle to release and receive, release and receive. Well, speaking of releasing and receiving, today's podcast, I have the beautiful, powerful, and divine masculine on, Jose Alejandro, my brother. We talked for the very first time on this podcast episode. I talked to him just moments before I hit record. And this is a really beautiful episode of a man sharing his story of healing. And this goes for men and women. It's a story of healing, forgiveness, dropping the armor, and really getting connected with the true soul essence of our very being. So my brother Jose, thank you so much for coming on. It was a pleasure talking with you, and everyone enjoy. First of all, I want to honor you and acknowledge you for your path that you're walking and the content that you're sharing and just who you be, because it's, as I was just sharing before we started recording, there's these waves that everyone in their divine timing and their purpose for this earth and serving humanity. But I've seen your content and it's on this new wave of humility, strength, honor, spiritual groundedness. And it's not based in that macho facade. It's based in that humility, but that quiet strength, that I don't have to be flashy. I'm just here. So I'm so glad we get to talk and share your journey, brother. Where are you from and what's led you to this path?
Appreciate you asking that question. It means a lot. And I also receive, which is something I'm still working on. It's a constant practice. Yes. Receive everything you shared. Because it's actually something I reflected on last week. My coach had me deeply reflect on just the journey that past month, 3 months, 6 months, year has brought me to this place. So I want to acknowledge that, the journey I've been on recently, because there's been a lot of transformation there. And to your question, just journey of how I got here, it's been a journey. It's been a search for truth is what I would call it. And a search for truth with a lot of turbulence, mistakes, and Just that's a cute dog. Just
Oh.
I had to acknowledge it. It's a beautiful puppy.
You know what's funny, man? He's deaf and blind, so sometimes his door's closed and he can't open it.
It's
He's an old timer. Sorry,
okay.
brother.
So
Keep going.
all good, man. You can leave this piece in there too. I think it's beautiful to acknowledge those moments.
Thanks, man.
So yeah, it's you know, a search. It's been a search for truth, and I would say the most truth has been revealed in this past year, this past 2 years, and I think what I mean by that is that all those moments throughout my journey that I was conflicted about, confused about, or just like struggling through, or trying to figure out like what it means in the scope of everything. Just so much gratitude has come for all of that, that now it's like, oh, like I've been in my truth all along. I've just been searching in the wrong places. So it's taking it back to where I was born. So I was born and raised in Puerto Rico. And just when I started really building friendships and creating relationships, 5 years old, my parents got divorced, and my mom is a New Yorican, Bronx, born and raised. My father is how we would say Jibaro from Puerto Rico. So my mom was like, we're going back. And from the age of 5 to about 9, 10, it was just like this tear between the two places. So I never had difficulty knowing like where I belonged. In Puerto Rico, I was I had an accent. I was like a gringo accent, and I didn't belong. They were like, this guy doesn't know our ways. And when I was over here, it was like I had a Spanish accent. So then I was also made fun of here. So I never felt like I belonged, and that caused me to really just hide.
Yes.
So I was retreating. My parents got back together when I was 9. So on top of that kind of like reaction and defense mechanism, there's a lot of turbulence and just a lot of things going on in my household that brought up anxiety. And I would say, not to take it to like the woo side, but my throat chakras, where a lot of my work is the energy is felt between my heart and my throat. And for most of my life, I wanted to speak, I wanted to share, but I was afraid to express my truth. So that took me to the other side of masculinity, which you mentioned, college, corporate space, really just trying to prove myself.
Yeah.
It's like, I want to be the man, so at 17, I built the race car, try to like, impress everyone. During college, I would start a whole bunch of different projects. I was really into style, and it was my way of being bold and expressive without having to say a word and really owning my power. So that took me through 7 years, 7 years as a marketing exec. And about 4 to 3 years ago, I had an emotional rock bottom. My parents got divorced again. So I mentioned they got back, and I got in between that as well. Well, this is what mom said, this is what dad said, and I was just like, I'm too grown for this, but the little kid inside was really what came back up for me. So the childhood wound, the 5-year-old, and a lot of other things unrelated to my parents' divorce as well, but it just brought that out. Like there's these things I was projecting on my now fiance, my relationships with my friends, my work was tanking, and I needed to do something. I didn't know what. Tell my friends about I was going through, and it was like, yeah, man, just be all right, bro. Just grab a drink. Let's go out. Let's go clubbing. Let's go this. Let's go shopping. Let's buy the new this, new that. And I was tired of that. I had read enough. I had done a lot of introspection, but hadn't gone beneath the surface. But I had consumed enough to know that there was more out there. So that dove me into talk therapy, which was beautiful because I dug into a lot of shadow work, learned a little bit more about my father wounds, my mom wounds, and what was coming up for me there. And then I felt like something was still missing. Just I guess to bring it all to this moment, in time of men's work, I felt like connection was what was missing. You know, I was learning a lot about myself. There was someone asking me really good questions, but it was connection. I had no other men that I could resonate with. And I didn't know that that was the thing until I went to my first men's group
Mhm.
after reading a book by Owen Marcus called Grow Up, where he spoke about men's groups, masculine emotional intelligence, all these different things. And I
Mhm.
was just blown away, like top blown off, just saw like, oh, this guy is experiencing the same thing I am. This guy,
Mhm.
oh shit, like I'm not that special, but at the same time I am. Like my story has a unique value in it.
Yeah.
And that just took me down a rabbit hole. Men's work here, hired my first coach, different men's groups, um, plant medicine as
Yeah.
well. I can't
Yeah.
forget to bring that
Talk,
in. So I
talk about
definitely,
that. Yeah. What led you down that plant medicine path? Because that's a beautiful path, and
yes,
certainly been a
yeah,
huge part of my healing. Huge part of my healing.
yeah. So I always like to use the analogy of like a helicopter ride to the top of the mountain and
Uh-huh.
then back down because you still have to do the work. So I when I went down this rabbit hole, I found podcasts that just the words kept coming up: ayahuasca, psilocybin,
Mhm.
these different workshops. Even like a couple friends that I started getting introduced to went out to Bali and were doing like breath work workshops and told
Yeah.
me about how crazy that was. So I was like, you know what? It's calling to me. Something is there that I think can benefit me at the moment. And it's interesting how that happens. Just it's almost like you go searching for it and you never find the right setting.
Mm.
But then you just 6 months passed after something fell through, and in 1 week, about 6 people brought up the word ayahuasca.
Mhm.
And then the thing that fell through 5 minutes before a text, the co-founder and like closest friend, we were talking about ayahuasca, whatever happened with such and such. I get a text like, hey, remember that shaman that does the men's ayahuasca retreats? 2 spots just opened up there this week.
Wow.
And it just happened like
Wow.
that. From
Wow.
there, rites of passages just really leaned into that world.
Yeah.
And I'll tie it all back together. The marketer in me, just owning that truth that I have those transferable stories in my back pocket, realize that not all men are ready for that.
Mm.
Not all men
That's
need
right.
to do that.
That's right.
And not even us, it's just a modality, a tool that we can use.
Yeah.
And that includes like, things like mindfulness workshops, even breath work. There's a journey that leads to that, but I realized that just taking the essence of what I learned and embodied from those places and bringing it, delivering it in a way that resonates with men
Mm.
makes the biggest difference. Like to me, the men's work isn't only the men's circles and those spaces that you and I have been to,
Mhm.
but to me, the men's work is going to a barbershop and being able to have a conversation where you're not shut down,
Mm.
being able to buy boots from a brand that talks about it being crafted with integrity, but also what it means to be a man of integrity wearing the boot. Like
Mm.
those little
That's
subtle
cool.
messages to
Yeah.
me is the men's work. So that's what really inspired, just long story short, bringing that all together. I was inspired to create my own space because I realized there was a layer of stories that those men, the East Coast guy, Black, Latino, men of color that I connect with on a daily basis, there was a layer of story that I connected with, I resonated with, that maybe they wouldn't in these other spaces I was in.
Mm.
So I created Modern Renaissance Man with my co-founder Voy, who's also a men's coach. And last but not least, I realized that same way I wasn't, other men's groups weren't all my flavor of men's
Mhm.
work.
Yeah.
Not all men would resonate with Modern Renaissance Man either. So again, going into the back pocket of storytelling marketing, I decided to relinquish that egoic need to have the best men's group, which really just goes back to the lone wolf mentality,
Yeah.
and just pour my heart, my service to helping other men, also creating their spaces, their movements. just transfer what I know and I have in my mind and is impacting men. Just give them those tools so that they can do the same. And that's brought me to this point. Just everything just aligned in truth.
Beautiful,
So.
brother. That is such a beautiful story. It's such a beautiful story, man. It's such a beautiful. I was hosting another podcast for a while, and it's a 37. It just kind of sits as its own space, and it was chronicled my journey. It was called The Vulnerable Hero, and it was talking about men's. Really, it was my journey of healing, but also it was around the time of the Me Too movement, and I was looking at this that hurt, truly hurt people. So here's women that are hurt, but if they don't feel safe enough to heal, they become perpetrators themselves back upon those that hurt them, which only isolates more the person that hurt them in the first place, which is not to ignore, but to acknowledge that those perpetrators in the first place are hurt people. So, so I did this podcast, the Me Too movement, Us Too, Pain is Pain. And I finished the series and I was leading men's retreats called The Vulnerable Hero, talking about that we don't need macho men anymore. The world of macho man is that, first of all, it's just a pain, a mask of pain and layered to try not to touch that pain inside. Mm-hmm. But the real man is the man that can say, look, bro, like you just did. That is healthy masculine energy. Say, here, I hurt, I was crying, I was confused, I didn't know, and I humbled myself to learn, and I learned, and I felt called, and I listened. And you know what's so beautiful, brother, about this, and I've shared this a couple times on this podcast, the bulls in Spain, these massive, violent, powerful beasts, they put a ring in between their nostril there because you can lead that bull wherever you want it to go, just because it doesn't matter how big and strong that thing is. You get your finger in that bull, and that's how most men, they build this. Yeah. Look at me, I'm a bad. We were watching my kids. I got an 8, 6, and 4-year-old, and we love the movie. I showed him Cool Runnings, and so we watched the movie Cool Runnings a lot. And there's that scene. He's like, Junior, you're a badass mother who don't take no crap off of nobody. And my 4-year-old's running around saying, you're a badass mother. But why I bring that up is that's that facade, that macho masculine facade. But really, they're not free until you can take that out, take the mask off and say, this is just my journey. It's just my path. And then what's so beautiful about this is we are led in divinity. We are led by the divine calling versus the ego leading or pulling back. Because when you get pulled by that tender sit, you resist, right? Exactly. And so this time of healing where, even talking about God as masculine energy, not as a gender, but as masculine energy, and the earth is the feminine energy. And this coming together right now in balance, this world that we're walking into where, man, we can truly love one another and sit with another and embrace another and be safe for another to say, let it rip, bro. Let it rip, because it's not too dark. It's not too ugly. It's not too dirty. It's not too shameful. It wasn't your fault. You didn't ask for it. The confusion of feelings and sensations and all these things, bro, let it rip. And I'm here and we can heal. And this, brother, I just love your story, brother. And
thank you,
man. I really believe when men heal, the world heals. I believe this.
Absolutely. I love that you said that, because I think if anything, this year has shown us that there's layers of trauma and things that are going on in the world that are affecting all of us. Sometimes we try to ignore them, and this quarantine, the rise to social injustices, just everything, the child sex trafficking, everything that has rose to the surface. I'm confident that the majority of the world is now aware of it. And a conversation based on what you just said, a conversation I have been having with the men, not only in modern Renaissance man, but just my community and those that are also doing this work, is it's not, you know, it's harder to get someone to pay attention to these issues and actually commit and desire to change them if from within they're not connected to their hearts and have empathy with what's going on in the world. And tying it all together, it's like with what you said, there's this quote I heard someone say a couple months ago: is never give a sword to a man who can't dance, right? Or who can't feel, right? And it just makes me think of like ton of men, of people with armor that are just stiff and putting on layers in order to protect themselves. And that being what is leading to all these other things that are going on in the world, because there's a disconnection from our hearts. And we can't dance, we can't empathize with others, we can't protect those we love with flexibility, with strength, with conviction, because there's this, like you said, lack of balance between the two polarities. So yeah, it's beautiful that you put it that way. Love that.
That's so beautiful. You know, I had this in meditation one day, and I saw the XX chromosome being the female and the XY chromosome being the male. And I realized, oh, I see what the male's responsibility is. So an X can receive on all sides. So the feminine energy actually is about receiving. That's why most men have a hard time receiving. It's because the vulnerability, we dropped that wall because we were wounded at one time, the time we were open and, you know, you were just with your friends like, hey, whatever. And they're like, what, you're weird. And all of a sudden we're like, oh, that hurts when I'm vulnerable. So we close that wall off. And then in the masculine, we keep trying to take to satiate our lack of receiving. Right. So I looked at X, or I was shown that X can receive on all sides. So females are really good at receiving energetically, and that's why they are more the empathic, and they're the listeners, and they communicate what they feel, and because they're constantly receiving. And this is obviously a generality, but this is in a healthy balance. This is what their gifts are. And then the masculine energy, we have X, and we can't receive. But then you look at this Y symbol. A Y can only receive when it's in balance with the feminine and masculine. And when the feminine and masculine are not in balance, it falls off. And we're like, what is wrong? Something is missing. And the answer is yes. I got chills right now. Just yes, bring back the feminine, drop your armor, receive vulnerable and naked, and just be. And in ceremony one time with my wife, she said to me, because I used to, teach like the 5 love languages with Gary Chapman and all that. And I used to say my love language was words of affirmation. But I actually challenged the whole premise of that book on that love language for this very reason. I saw this and my wife said, you say your love language is words of affirmation, and we're in the medicine and we're sitting there. And she said, but you are like a bathtub with no plug in the drain. And I keep filling your tub up and it keeps going out, filling your tub up and going out. And she goes, it is exhausting and I can't keep doing it. And then I, like in a split second, saw I grew up a really terrible upbringing, horrible. And I was scared that I was going to be killed by my father. So I saw that I was still afraid. I might have backed I was leading vulnerable hero retreats. I was doing but I had 0.01. I still had like a sheath, this thin layer that said, you're not going to kill me. I will not let you to kill me. And that created rejection in my wife because I still couldn't receive her words. And so she didn't feel sufficient enough to love me. I was still craving to be loved, and me not receiving her love created rejection. And then the second thing from rejection is always resentment. So we have a world of resentment because we've experienced rejection from giving love to others. And I realized, so my background, we're Jewish and Catholic and all these backgrounds, but the word love in Hebrew is a hava, which means to give. So love, when they say like God is love, God is giving always, but he is also the greatest act of love we can give is to receive. This is the paradox. It's so wild. It's so wild. The greatest act of love I can give you is to receive. And in that moment, everything changed for me, brother. I realized, wow, okay. And that's maybe the call for many is like, I'm willing to die to receive your love. I'm willing to surrender everything to receive your love. Like I am naked here with you to receive your love. And brother, my marriage has unbounded. There's no bounds to my relationship, our depth. And this has been the thing I've been sharing is the greatest act of love we can give another is to receive their love.
Man, you're giving me chills, bro. That's beautiful. And thank you so much for being vulnerable with that just journey you experience with your partner, with your wife. It resonates deeply. My fiance and I got engaged last year. We've been together for 12 years next February.
Wow, congratulations.
And we've been through so many stages. I was a boy for 3/4 of that journey, if that, maybe 4/5, right? And we just, same thing. We stepped into this place where like, receive me as I am. I receive you as you are. And it makes me think of, it's almost like we reject others and don't allow ourselves to receive from them because we're rejecting ourselves first and foremost.
Yes.
It's like, I know for me, it was, I've walked into the room and I did some work with my shadow worker on this even recently, 2 months ago, just how I often can get into this. My defense mechanism is walk into the room rejected before someone else can reject me. And then I sabotage the opportunity for love and an experience to be created. And I think oftentimes relationships are being operated in that way. Even at moments in my relationship where I thought we were giving a lot, there was a lot going on, I can think of moments where most of that was probably guided by fear of rejection, like almost a give and take. And one other piece I want to bring into this. So I've recently been practicing with cacao a lot, just really deepening my practice with cacao. And one beautiful thing that I learned in the program I'm in, shout out to my brother Brendan Durrell, who runs the program. He said the Aztecs, the warriors used to drink cacao before they went into battle so they can fight with their hearts open. And that just blew my mind away. It was like warriors that we have revered and thought of as like, you know, and they drank cacao. All right, that might be the symbol for, but their objective, regardless of what you think of cacao, if you've experienced it now, their objective, and this is in books, was to have an open heart while they were in battle. And it just makes me think of what you said about the why and having almost like the chest open.
Yes.
And you're like, rather than being this like closed off, I'm a macho. It's almost like, yes, I'm embracing my masculinity. I'm a warrior, but my heart is open. Like,
so good.
You know,
that is so good. Oh, brother, that is a cool lesson. Yeah, to because you know that if we go out, may we go out as we came in, open. That's how I look at that. Like, we're so afraid to die, but we'd forgotten how to live. And we came into this world living and we trying to brace not to die, but we're dying. And we go out as we came in open. Just that's the power. This, and what's cool about this time, the matrix system, this whole veneer, this narcissistic facade that is all based on conditional love. If you do, then I will. And everyone's saying, well, I want. So where everyone's like, oh, how high do you want me to jump? Oh, you want me to jump this high? And then people realize after a while, I can't jump that high. And the suicide rate's higher than it's ever been. 79% of all suicides in the United States in 2018, before the last bit of data that they've been collected, was men. 8 out of 10 suicides are men. And when that guy says, I can't jump, you've been asking me to jump this high, and I've been jumping, and I still can't receive the love and validation. I still don't feel good enough. And guys like, it's not worth it. And then just shatters that generational boom, boom. And this is the time where we bring back, there's no accident that the child sex trafficking and all the heinousness, the most vile acts on innocence in this world are being brought to the surface, because it's time that we connect with our inner child to heal. And as physical representations of children being brought back. And it's so cool in Malachi, the last prophet in the Hebrew Bible, he says, this is the last thing that Malachi says before the New Testament. The last thing that God speaks through his prophet. And he's talking about the Messiah returning, the Mashiach returning. And he says, and he shall turn the heart of the fathers to the children, and the heart of the children to their fathers. Lest I come smite the earth with a curse. Lest I come and give what the world. See, if we don't heal, if we don't come back and align with ourselves and heal and bring back this generational blessing from generation to generation, generation to generation. People say, oh, God's going to smite the earth with a curse. No, God is love, and love gives. So love will give us exactly what we ask for. And if we ask for brokenness, God gives us brokenness, because he will not cross our sovereign will, because the greatest law is the law of free will. It cannot be crossed. That is why we are so powerful as individuals. Whatever we say is. So if we say, oh, I'm just this, that, I'm this, that, then we are that. But we say, no, I am that I am, and I am whole, and I am good, and I am healing, and I am love, and I am, like you said, I have sought truth. I am a truth seeker. Well, truth makes us free. May we all seek more truth. I was saying this podcast that came out today. I said, if the news, and my background is a journalist, so I have a lot of friends still in like national, all these. If the news shared truth, then the world would be free. We're not free. Therefore, the news doesn't share truth. But we keep going back to a source which professes it's bringing truth. And we keep regurgitating the stuff, spewing it back out to others. And the result is more confusion, division, fear, all these terrible things. So anyway, brother, I just yeah. Go ahead, brother. No, go for it. No, brother. Go.
Which ties back to like not owning our own truth. I recently made a video about the quote, "The truth shall set you free." And when I was younger, that quote used to like rub me the wrong way. And the reason for that was because the truth, I felt like, implied there was one universal truth, and that and I was being fed so many truths that I was like, okay, so you're expecting me to relinquish my own. And then when I realized that, you could reframe it, like you said, the truth, your truth, our truth will set us free.
Exactly. Yes.
And once we understand our own truth, for example, my story and your story, they have different layers and contexts. But we need to accept that truth first, our own truth, our story. And once you accept it, it's almost like the universal truth gets revealed. Like we're all one. We're all one and the same. But first, we got to get past that layer where we're not counting on all these external sources telling us what truth is. We can decipher and say, this is true to me, or this does not feel right. Let me explore it further. Perhaps I'm a student in this realm and I need to understand in a different perspective. So I think it's truth is, when you think of purpose, we complicate it very often. Men complicate purpose often. And I think it could get distilled down to one word. If you really think about it, it's a feeling, it's an emotion that we feel when we do something, when we know ourselves. For me, the word is truth. I think it's different for everyone, but my word, and I've worked with my coach on this, just distilling it down. It's, yeah, if everyone was feeling love, if everybody was expressing themselves, it would be truth. Like for me, truth is my purpose, and I feel like the more people find their truth, even if their purpose is freedom or joy, they're in their truth from my perspective.
Yeah, so. That's so beautiful. It's funny. Like, did you have a Catholic upbringing, or did you come from that Catholic world?
Yeah, Catholic, Christian. It kind of evolved with everything that happened throughout my childhood, but I did my confirmation, baptism.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So I can speak with the same language with you. Is that it is everything's about in that religious text is truth. Do you believe this? This is the truth. Do you believe this? And you're either in or you're out. And like, you want to be in, because if you're out, this is the consequence of out. God will smite you. He will bring justice.
Chop you in half.
Yeah. He's not only gonna chop you off, he's gonna boil your. Like, it is like, what sickness is this crazy thing? And I was a Christian preacher brother, I went down hard down that religious path just to know truth. And I was so confused. And what is truth? And this is what I've learned. And you model this really beautifully and experience this. So Jesus, Yeshua, his name means salvation. So people say Jesus, but really he was just here to teach salvation. And what is salvation? Is not to be saved. Salvation is to be in love. That's what it means. It means when we salivate, it's the same root word, salvation, salivate. When you salivate, your body intrinsically has a reaction to the environment that you're in, the food. You're like, that's what salvation is. You're in love. Therefore, you have this experience. So when he says you shall know the truth, it's only from a place of love. So love is what gives truth permission to come forth, resulting in our freedom. This is what blew me away. And why, again, truth makes us free media, but why religion doesn't make people free? Because religion, the very precipice is judgment. It's judging in or out, in that duality. When people, like you said, I'm still a student in this. Like, it was the sinner on the cross at the last second judged as, wow, all the moments before that moment. No, he came at the last moment to realize, oh, I got you. Hey, Lord, there you are. And there's no judgment on that. But yet the system of judgment is, tell me now. Are you in or are you out? And that creates so much confusion. I feel like truth is like this groundhog. Groundhog's Day. It's like if the groundhog sees its shadow and it goes back in, it's a longer winter. Truth is like always going to sniff. Are you going to judge me? Are you going to judge me? Is there judgment in this environment? And then if it sniffs judgment, it burrows down deeper and deeper, because it knew the last time I was exposed, I got hurt. But when in the environment of love, it's like,
even love for those that reject us.
That's it. Because that's real love.
Right there.
Guess what? That's real love. To love those that are easy to love is not love. To love all and thank them for the mirrors that they are for what's still inside us, as opposed to the windows that they are to see inside them.
Yeah, absolutely. Otherwise, it's a thought. It's really us being excited that someone is giving us a sense of belonging. Right. So it's like, oh, this person loves me. I love them because they love me. Really, it's us not loving ourselves and being excited that someone else is giving us that sense of belonging. But once they take it away, we tend to go on the other side and hate. Yes. And like you said, real love is just first and foremost loving the divinity within us,
Yes.
regardless of, like you said, it's not related to religion. It's more about finding God within us,
That's right.
then loving ourselves and then loving others regardless of how they show up in life and how they which brings us back to the compassion piece with the all the things that are going on in the world, right? I know, not to get too deep into this, but when I first saw the death of George Floyd, just to touch on this, I definitely looked at the guy that was watching it happen, and I was thinking, man, how did we fail that guy? How did we fail that guy? He obviously needs to be accountable for his actions.
Yeah.
But how did we not love this guy in a way that he would love himself so much that he could stand up to what's right without feeling consequences of not belonging, whether that's being outcasted by his fraternity, his whatever. But like, how did that man get failed, and how do we love him going forward? And it's not always easy. Sometimes love is not the first layer to getting to love. You know, sometimes it's setting the boundary, getting out the fucking house and making sure you're safe. And then having compassion for that person once you've processed it. But I'm with you on
That's powerful,
it.
brother. That is a powerful observation. That, you know, with 2020, like Donald Trump, I said this to someone who hates him, and I said, he's the greatest gift to humanity. And there was like, what? I was like, if I would have tased him, it was pretty funny. And I knew there was going to be some sort of reaction. I said, because simply this, he's revealed what's in the hearts of mankind. If you have hate, it's been brought up. If you have, so all these things, the George Floyd, all these things, like, that's a beautiful observation of the thing, versus all these things get revealed and then we attach it to something else. And so for those that hate Donald Trump, what? Okay, you hate him so much you want him to die. Okay, well, how do you want him to die? Oh, but is that real? Oh, I want to do all the, that is not going to satiate something inside you, as opposed to seeing what's inside you and saying, why is this inside me? And going within and healing. And then someone said on this post the other day, they're like, well, I said, everyone's a mirror. I look at everyone as a mirror, and we have soul contracts. So I had a soul contract with the family I grew up in to do what they did so I could be who I am, so we could have these beautiful conversations. This podcast could go all around the world for moments of that people are in what they're in. They can be liberated. So this is all working out just the way it's supposed to work out. But this person was saying, well, if I detach my hatred, do I become the person am I aligning to that? I said, absolutely not. What we're saying is there are consequences, and there are just consequences. That's why Lady Justice was supposed to be blind. There is no, I don't see who or what you are. It just happens to be this action results in this consequence. So consequences are worthy of actions, and actions are worthy of consequences, apart from me having any emotional tie to them. Because if I'm tied to the consequence, then I am not free. I am tethered to that result, and it never can satiate something inside me. That's what I'm saying. You can't kill them, or, you know, these pedophiles, I want them removed off the earth. They're the most vile creatures. They're the most heinous, vile. It is the worst to cause that level of confusion and dirtiness inside an innocent soul. They get to be removed, but I'm not like, oh, we're gonna like get them. They just get to be removed because that energy does not belong in the world of love. This energy, so it's like when we talk about it's race or it's this, no, it's unhealed trauma that's getting revealed to the surface, and let us heal as one. I want more colors on this planet. I want more beautiful like souls to shine. The rainbow isn't beautiful because it's one color bending. Who cares about that? It's multiple colors in unison, arcing together, giving equal space for each other to be. And that is what's beautiful. Oh man, it's
Yeah,
you
I
know,
love
it's
it.
such a time of revealing, and then may we all detach, because it's only about going within. It's only about healing within. So I'm so glad you said it. It's such a beautiful observation. Yeah, how did we fail that guy
Yeah,
who didn't speak up? And then when did I not speak up, and why don't I speak up? And
yeah,
then go in,
yeah.
and then next time it's like, hey, speak, brothers.
And you know, it's interesting you brought that up because I've noticed and have sat with shame coming up for me during these
Mm-hmm.
times. And I'm a man of color. I've been profiled by the police.
Mm-hmm.
You know, most of my friends are Black or Latino,
Yeah.
and these are conversations we have all the time. But even in, you know, I felt shame in not showing up at a certain time or not. So going back to what you said, oftentimes that anger that we want, it's something we see within ourselves, and we want to expel it, like
Yeah.
off the face of the earth.
Yeah.
And like you said, it gets to be removed. It does,
Yes.
because
Yes.
it can create a cancer in the space and taint everyone else's energy as well.
That's right.
Like you said, you know, to go to that extreme, usually, you know, I'll reflect and I'm like, oh, that's me having shame over something that's within me. And maybe it didn't show up in that way,
That's right.
but it showed up in other areas of my life. And it's just pain, which is why I love storytelling, right? Because our stories, our truths, our pain is just pain. And then based on our trauma, based on our stories, based on the things that we've learned, we take those out and project them through there. So for someone, it might be race. You know, we see that and we're like, race,
Yeah.
let's outcast him. I would love to boil him or
Yeah.
whatever it is,
Right.
right?
Right.
But really, it's just pain and his story, how he grew up.
That's right.
That's how he shows it.
That's right.
That's how he shows it. For us, it might be different. Maybe my story, it's you know, I would say police. You know, I've experienced pain and have stories against police as
Right.
well from my youth. If I wasn't conscious enough to think about that, to process that story, and see how my pain is projecting into any police officer,
Right.
then I wouldn't be able to create and transmute into some sort of purpose that actually shifts this in others. Which I think to tie it to the beginning of the conversation, you know, we spoke about our journey. It's a pain to purpose, you know. So rather
That's
than
it.
being mad and like outcasting, we can use that pain, transmute it, understand it, and channel it in a way that will actually help not only remove those people, but perhaps avoid other people in pain getting to that place where they commit those atrocious things. So
That's right. Dude, it's so
yeah.
good. It's so good. I'm so glad we're talking. I'll give you a huge hug, brother. If you were here right now, just give you a
Yeah.
huge hug, brother. Where are you right now? Where do you live?
I'm in Jersey City, so
Oh, right on.
only shortly though. I'm moving. I got a one-way ticket with my fiance to Costa Rica, so I'll be
Wow.
there end of December. But right now I'm in tri-state New York City area.
Wow. Wow.
Yeah.
Man, I'm so glad we connected, man. Um,
Likewise.
you're doing a great job, brother. You're doing
Likewise.
a great job. You're impacting children unborn yet. I just want you to know it's not the brothers you see, it's the little boys and girls that are going to be birthed and their soul contracts coming into these men. Brother, it's generations upon generations upon generations, brother. You're doing a great job. And I'm telling you that, receive it, brother. You're doing a great thing.
Received, brother. Thank you. Thank you.
Ah,
If we have the time, I'd love to share a story that I think will tie that and everything together.
please, please.
And also plant medicine, right? So first time I did ayahuasca, the ceremony, I had a plan a trip planned to go to Puerto Rico and spend a week with my grandparents.
Mm.
And then I told you about the story. It kind of just plugged in this weekend. So it plugged in, and 2 days after that, had my ticket, a week booked to spend time with my grandparents. During my ayahuasca journey, the second day we sat, I saw clear as day and just my ancestral lineage. And I saw the movement, the yelling, the pain, and I felt it, in my body as well. So I don't know how far back, great, great, great grandparents, his son, his daughter, and I saw my grandfather yelling at my mother yelling at me. And I was turned around almost like holding my heart, and just, it blew my mind away. So I want to keep that in context. I go to Puerto Rico, and my grandfather's very stubborn. He's one of those guys, the sky is blue, but if he says it's green and you say one thing, he's kind of transitioned and done a lot of work in that as well, but he's still a bit stubborn. And throughout the week, there was a lot of moments that I was just like in this blissful state, and I had seen that in my vision, and was just like, I'm not gonna get triggered by this. I love him. I'm just here to spend time with him. However he shows up, It's all good. But something happened on the way to the airport the last day. So oftentimes, when anyone goes to visit him, anyone in my family, he tends to pick and start an argument on the way to the airport. It's his way, and I've noticed this, it's his way of creating an emotional connection before people head out. So on the way to the airport, we stopped in this little town that sells souvenirs, and to kind of like get some stuff for family. And then he loses his way, so he asks me for help, bring out the Google Maps. Long story short, I took him in a direction that he then realized wasn't the direction that he wanted to go in. And he started getting tense, getting angry. Why do we go this way? You should have listened to me. And I was just like, it's all good. If the GPS is wrong, then at least we get more time together. And I was trying to speak positively and show love. And he was in a very triggered state. And it brought back the memory of a week ago, the week before my ayahuasca journey, when I saw that. And he literally at that moment said, I'm sorry. He was apologizing as he was yelling, I'm sorry I'm doing this, but I tell this to everyone. My father was like this, so I'm like this. And your mom, and I did this with your mom, and she knew this, so you have to deal with it too. And in that moment, I was just like, wow. Like, wow, you don't need to be and do that, bring that pain forward just because your father did that. So we get to the airport, he pulls over, my grandmother's in the back. She's really sad. She's like, Alex, which Alex is Alejandro's middle name. Alex is what my family calls me. And she was just really sad. My grandfather was frozen on the steering wheel, didn't want to say bye. He was just frozen in his moment. And a part of me wanted to say, you know what, I'm out. And usually that tends to happen. The family members don't speak to him for months at a time. That's his way of saying, you see, I knew it, this, that. So I decided to go around, open the door, and I gave him a kiss on the cheek. And I said, I love you. I'll see you later. For 2 months, I didn't speak to him, but he kept telling my grandmother. Well, at that moment, he cried. I saw it, but he still didn't really look at me. He told my grandmother he was sorry a couple times, and she called me. She would tell me, and I would tell her, it's all good. 2 months after, he said, you're a greater man than I'll ever be. He called me. He told me that. And that's when everything truly came together. Not only the ayahuasca journey, which helped me have so much perspective and put aside my ego, but also just exactly what you said. Like, the work that we do goes beyond me. That started with me for myself, but my parents and the generations before me, not only the ones after me, are also being healed as well. So thank you for allowing me to share that story, and thank you for this platform, brother.
Brother, that is such a beautiful story. That is such a beautiful story. Thank you, brother. That is a beautiful story, man. Thank you.
Thank you, bro.
And congratulations, because you broke the cycle.
We are breaking the cycle, brother.
We're the cycle breakers. Before we wrap, bro, can you how can people, and please everyone listen and follow my brother Jose, Alejandro, Alex Rodriguez. How can people find you and connect with you?
Yeah, thank you for the opportunity to say that. So you can follow me at on Instagram at rjose underscore Alejandro. So RJOSE_ALEJANDRO. And there's links there for a lot of the work that I do. But that's usually the best place to find my work and just my truth, just channeled the best way I could with that I guess channel vehicle of communication.
Beautiful. Well, I can't wait. I'll put all that in the show notes, and I can't wait to get this episode out. And this episode, it's going to air sometime in mid-November, and no doubt the perfect time, especially with what I anticipate probably will happen in mid-November, and people get to heal.
Yeah.
Oh man.
Word.
God bless you, brother. Truly, love and light to you, in you, through you, out of you, brother. Thank you.
Thank you, brother. It's received. I truly appreciate what you're doing. Your voice, which is a great voice, by the way, and just this platform and beyond. It's definitely something that is making an impact, and has made an impact on me. Just this conversation. So I appreciate you for welcoming me into the space.
Brother Jose, thank you so much for coming on. I love conversations like that where people can just take their mask off and show their journey of healing, and it's such a beautiful story to share. So brother, thank you. And everyone listening, thank you for coming along with me on this journey. You can probably hear a little bit, I still have a little bit of cold left, but it's actually purging some deep trauma stuff that I had to heal a couple weeks ago. And so on the tail end of it, but it is all good. It's all love and light. And in the coming days, the coming weeks, I believe things are going to look very intense and perhaps scary for many. And I just want you to remember that these things must come to pass. The matrix system is dissolving. It is crumbling before our very eyes. And those that fight to preserve the matrix will do what they'll do. But that power structure is leaving. And the authority of love and light is here now. That's the 5D earth. It is here now. And remember, in the matrix system, you and I are slave. We are not sovereign. And in the 5D earth, we are sovereign. So the irony is there will be many people fighting to preserve the matrix system where they are slave. And when you step into sovereignty and love and light, you, dear brother and dear sister, simply be an invitation and say, are you ready? Come on. You want to talk? Come on. You want to come out of that anger, fear, worry, anxiety, stress, depression? Come on, I'll talk to you. We can walk together. We can commune together. We can live together as sovereign beings in love and light for one another, not based on agreements, but based on love. Not based on, well, give me everything that you believe and I got to tell you everything I believe, and do we believe the same thing? And if we do, great. If we don't, we have to argue, convince each other. No. In love and light, all things are revealed. And in love and light, there is no need to be right, because being right is based on right and wrong in the 3D judgmental duality existence, which is going away. So blessings to you all. I bless you with the highest love, the highest good, the highest truth from the Most High. Be free, dear one, for all is good. I am Lucas Mack. This is the Golden Rule Revolution, and I look forward to talking with you on the next episode.
Thank you, brothers and sisters, for listening. For support in your journey, go to my website, lucasmack.com.